What's up, guys? Welcome back to Airbnb ABCs. I'm very happy to have you guys here today because we're going to be talking about something that seems to be popping up everywhere, and that is the thought of oversaturation in the Airbnb, vrbo, short-term rental market, with special emphasis on the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee. So your Gatlinburgs, Pigeon Forge, Seviervilles, and areas around that, of there being too many cabins, there being declining revenues, and people having a tough time booking their cabins or getting the same amount of money for the bookings that they were getting before. There seems to be a sky is falling-ism about this whole thing. And I want to take a look at a chart that has been making the rounds very popularly on various owners groups that I'm in and talking to other owners. But first, what I want to give you guys is what my angle is on this. Am I a realtor? Am I a broker? Am I trying to get you to buy a short-term rental? I am none of these things. I am just your investor. I have 3 cabins in the Smoky Mountains market. I've been visiting the Smoky Mountains for 42 years, and I am 41 years old. I was visiting when I was, in my mom's belly. I'm very familiar with this area. We only live about 4 hours away. We vacation here for 4 decades for me now. And so before I was even into this, I was very, very familiar with the Smoky Mountains market. But I'm going to put a chart up on the screen right now for you all, and it's going to show the city of Gatlinburg lodging tax revenue. This is an extremely popular chart that's been going around, and it shows that from the 2020 to 2021 through 2024, basically the COVID years, which is what a lot of folks like to say, that COVID blew everything out of proportion and it's going back to 2019 or prior numbers. And when we look at this, you can see that 2020 to 2021, we got a big 52% bump, and that we saw that in our bookings. We got in 2021, and then in 2022 we only had a little 2% bump, and since then it's gone down 17% to 2024. Now, a lot of folks want to see what 2019 was like. And at that point, you can see that from 2019 to 2024, we have a growth of revenue of about $60 million of tax revenue, according to this chart, which is claimed to have come from the Gatlinburg finance department. What does that mean? Are we back to 2019 levels? Are we going back to 2019 levels? We really have to start looking at what the inflation rate did between that time period. So the inflation rate between 2019, the start of 2019, and the end of 2024 was 25%. So, if we adjust that 2019 rate, that number to the rate of inflation, we're looking at about 290 million or so. So really we are in the ballpark of being adjusted for inflation for 2024 being at that 2019 level. So if folks are saying that things are going back to 2019 numbers, it's not like inflation affected everything else and just magically missed this industry entirely. We are basically at 2019 numbers adjusted for inflation. And anytime that you look at these charts, a lot of folks will zoom in on a very small portion, like the first chart that I put on the screen, and you'll see that we were up 54%. Now we've come down 17%. When you zoom that chart out a little bit and you look at where they have been or where they are versus where they have been, a 54% increase and then a 17% pullback is a significant overall growth. Even when you're looking at a 25% rate of inflation, you are still outpacing the rate of inflation with the growth that is going on. And the thing to really think about is if this is actually tax revenue, that is a small percentage of the amount of money that's coming in. So if you're lodging, total taxes, let's say, are 10%, I don't know what they are, to be honest with you, but the amount that's actually being spent is tremendously higher than what these numbers are, and I am here to get a piece of that action and to get the biggest piece that I can possibly get with the 3 cabins that I have. And so what we're looking at here is that there's still a tremendous amount of money coming into Gatlinburg, which these charts only show Gatlinburg numbers. So that means Pigeon Forge, Sevierville, which actually Sevierville has more cabins than anyone else, than Gatlinburg or Pigeon Forge combined. Wares Valley, Townsend, Cosby, all of these places are bringing in money in addition to just Gatlinburg, and so there's a bunch of money coming in for folks to get. So when I hear oversaturation, I think that there is an oversaturation of crappy properties and crappy property managers. And I'm going to give you the three camps that I think that this falls into as far as things being oversaturated in these crappy properties and the crappy property managers. The first thing that I see from folks is location, and this is just a real estate thing. Location, location, location. Those are the three most important things in real estate, and I find that people are buying places that are farther out and they're having trouble booking them, and the reason is because they're too far out. If you're looking at a map here of the greater Sevierville area, here's where the action is. It's in Pigeon Forge, about right here-ish, and it's in Gatlinburg, about right here-ish. And so you can get, 10 to 20 minutes away from these places and still do very well, because a lot of people don't like to be right in the mix of things. They like to be out in the woods and stuff and be able to go in at a very, easy drive. So basically that's going to be anywhere around like this area right here. You're going to have a very solid rental base. We have a place out here on 321 that's like right here-ish. And we thought that that may be too far out, but you can at least get on 321 and zoom into Gatlinburg fairly quickly, and that place does very well for us. Where I see a lot of folks having lots of problems is people that have bought out here in Cosby. This is not close enough to the action to get the type of money and the type of occupancy that you're going to get if you buy in one of these areas. That's going to cost you more because the demand is higher. I see people down in Townsend. Again, this is probably the next place I would look for outside of Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg is Townsend, because they do have like Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge-y type of stuff there without the commercialism of those two places. But folks out here, the demand is not there that these other places have. Anyone that's in Sevierville, especially north of 411 here and up into the Lake Douglas area, not going to have the demand because you are not close enough to what people are coming here for. The tourists are not coming for Lake Douglas. They are not coming in general for Townsend. They are definitely not coming for Cosby. They're coming for Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, and the National Park. And the National Park entrances, for the most part, are down here in Gatlinburg. There are ones in Townsend and such, but you're going to capture the most people by being closest to the action. People are not coming to Douglas Lake. They're going to Lake Norris. This is not a going to the lake market. And so if you're in a bad location, you could have the most awesome property ever, and it's not going to rent as well as an average property that is near where people want to be. The second thing is so many people have bad properties, and in 2025 and the previous probably 10 years, and I would assume the next 10 years, people want to stay in cabins. They want to stay in log cabins. That's where they're coming to the Smokies, because they want something different than their drywall home that they came from. In the 80s, 90s, probably the 70s too, chalets were a big deal. The alpine chalets that had lots of drywall, the darker, wood that sort of had that like old English look to it. That was very popular. That is no longer the case. You can make a chalet extremely modern, and it will book, especially if it has a view, especially if it's very close to these things. But folks are looking to come to log cabins. So people that have houses with drywall that are these outdated chalets, they're not going to get booked like the cabins are, and that gives you a bad property. So, unfortunately, if you're in these bad locations, there is absolutely nothing that you can do about being in a bad location. Your property is fixed there. The only thing you can do is sell it, hope to make some money, and get one of these in a better location. And a place that is the wrong property can be updated, can be modernized to be very attractive. Still not going to do as good as a log cabin in the Smokies. The next thing about having a bad property is so many of these are horribly outdated. They have old worn out furniture, old worn out linens. They still have vines and ivy stuff across the cabinets. They're cluttery. They have knickknacks. They have just, you can tell that they have been neglected, that they have not been updated, that the owners or the management company does not really care about them at all, other than getting that check. Again, outdated appliances, HVAC systems that don't work well. You see this in the reviews. If your place is outdated, it's not going to get rented well. And it doesn't take a lot to get, very well updated. New appliances, new decor, declutter, take off the 90s fake plants and ivy. You're going to be in good shape. And then the third thing on bad properties is they're missing amenities. Some people refuse to put hot tubs in because they think they're going to be this huge problem, maintenance headache. If you do not have a hot tub in the Smokies market, you are not going to get booked. If you do not have some sort of a fire pit, the person that does is going to get booked better than you will. If you don't have any games, if your place is just completely just a cabin, that's it, you can sleep there, you are not going to get booked as well as the people that have them. And then the third camp that people fall into is just bad management. This is going to be having bad listings that include, just the cabin name and the title. They don't really sell anything on that first thing that people see. Their listing copy is mainly just rules, punishments, regulations. It does not sell the space. It does not sell the area. Just basically says, if you do this, you'll be punished this way. If you do this, we're going to charge you $300. Just tons of rules, very off-putting. They usually have terrible, dim and blurry cell phone photos. I can't tell you how many listings I go to where people are having trouble getting their place booked, and their photos were taken from like an iPhone 5 back in whenever the heck that was going on. The lighting is terrible. It's blurry. It does not showcase the space, and it's out of date. Maybe there was a view, now trees have grown up that reflects in the reviews. It's bad management, and that is how your place does not get booked, and how you end up in the camp of it's oversaturated because no one's booking my place, so obviously it's not me, it is something else. The minimum stays in a lot of people's places are all wrong. A lot of folks really want to just lock in these super long bookings like 4, 5, and 6 days. The Smokies are a place where people come down for 2 or 3 nights. They come down for Friday, Saturday, and leave because they are from Cincinnati or Atlanta or Nashville or something else where they can drive there quickly, stay 2 nights, have their little fling, and then drive back to be at work the next day or to someone else's thing. Having these 3, 4, 5 night stays throughout your entire calendar, not just around holidays, are going to cost you bookings because people don't want to stay for that long or can't afford to. Remember, this is a semi-budget destination, and so folks may not want to spend $300 a night for 5 nights, but they will spend $300 a night for 2, and if you can get, 2 or 3 of those 2-night bookings, that's your 5 nights, and your cleaners end up making some more money on top of that. Another thing is just bad pricing. If you're priced too low during high season, you're not going to make the money. If you're priced far too high during low season because you think you're going to keep the riffraff out by keeping your price is super high, you're just going to keep money out of your pocket in general. There is some price points where it starts getting to be like, this will cause a problem, but get that price lower than what you were comfortable for, and you will be able to fill that calendar up. And then when it's time to put the prices up, get the prices up, but make sure that you are also keeping in mind that there is a pain point where people will no longer pay that in order to get your place. And then the last part about bad management, it's just bad customer service. This is where you don't fix the problems that are obviously evident with your places that stand out in the reviews. This is where you treat your guests like crap. They want, let's say, more paper towels. You just tell them that's too dang bad. They can't get those, that whatever's included is included, instead of getting on Instacart and sending over, 20 or 30 bucks worth of paper towels once you pay the fees and the tip, and then you get that 5-star review. This bad customer service, and there's a million things that I could come up with as far as like not letting people check in early when the place is ready, and they sit there and they see no one come, and then all of a sudden it's magically ready. This is how you end up starting to get your review count coming down lower, your number coming down lower, and then that's how you end up getting those bad reviews. If you have good customer service, it's going to reflect in those reviews. You're going to stay booked, and you're going to be able to book it for more money. So, guys, that is my opinion on oversaturation in the Smokies market for Airbnb and vrbo. I think that there's definitely a ton of properties being built. I think that there are tons of properties there. I think there is also a ton of guests and a ton of money coming into this area every single year, every single day. So if you can be in that top 50% of properties and that top 25% of properties, you're going to have no problem keeping your place booked. You're going to have no problem turning a profit, making the money that you want to, or at least the money that you can get from it. Some people's get their ideas bigger than what is actually in reality. But I think that if you've done your math right, that you are going to be able to make money. Again, not an agent, not a broker, not anything, just a guy on the internet telling you guys about what I'm doing and my opinions. I appreciate you sticking around today. If you haven't yet, hit that like button, subscribe down below, and I'll see you in the next one.